interesting panel discussion today, and we've got some stellar leaders on the stage. Before we start off, I want to start off with a story. We all like a story after lunch to help us settle down. So I have a cousin. Her name is Ketchup, not Ketchup, Ketchup. So the way it started is she was born in the 70s. Towards early 80s, she said she had a revelation. She wanted to become an office assistant. Started learning typing, right? Typewriters. Anyone remembers typewriters? Maybe a few. Yeah, maybe I'm the only old one in the room. But after that, she quickly realized that there's a new thing in the market. It's called computers. And she started off figuring out some softwares which do some work similar to a typewriter. And she figured out a software called WordStar. Anyone remembers WordStar? No, all young people around. By the time she figured out how to learn and use WordStar, she figured out, oh, there's a new thing in the market. It's called Word and it's called emails. So she started catching up slowly. But, and as of a couple of years ago, she kind of figured out what is WhatsApp. So she's caught up to WhatsApp now. And I get good morning messages every day because she's so thrilled that she's in India and she can send me a message and I will instantly get it here. So she's playing the catch-up game. The reason I thought it was interesting is organizations and people are also trying to catch up in a way. And is that catch-up going to work for us as we change the context and the world is changing rapidly around us? Everybody speaks about ChatGPT now. I use ChatGPT to put in some of my talking points in. So with all of the changes that's happening across in the world, can we really still continue to play catch-up? And that's the key point that we would want to discuss. What are the skills? What are the capabilities? How do we really look at upskilling ourselves and the organizations that we work in? I belong to an organization very proudly, Algorand Investment. We are 28,000 people. We have a transformation journey called Fit for Future. How are we becoming fit for future? Fit for today is not fit for future. So how do we really create an environment, a world in which we remain fit for future? How do we figure out the challenges that's happening around globally? It's a time and age of rapid economic challenges as well. How is it that we are integrating all of these things together? So to begin with, and we've been chatting along on quite a few interesting elements of skills and upskilling and capabilities. I would like to start off with you, Samar. And if from your vast experience, if you could share some light on what are the challenges which you typically face when we talk about elements such as building the workforce of the future or changing the ways of working, collaboration, interacting. What's really interesting is, and it's interesting, we would want to start off with the challenges first because that's something which the audience could really value and learn from. So it would be really interesting to hear from you about some of the challenges there.
For sure. Thank you so much, Suharid. Thank you so much, everyone, for your presence and for your time. It was a great pleasure to get to know you today. Quick introduction, my name is Samer, and I'm the head of people for some businesses in Chalhoub Group, and I'm the group head of culture also, a recent assignment added to my current one. Suharid, before starting, no doubt that the world is changing at a very fast and accelerated way, driven mainly by the big trends that are shaping the world, whether they are demographics, economy, science, technology, digital. And if I want to take one of them, like the digital one, that is the most obvious nowadays, it has its challenges and its opportunities, its pluses. The opportunities is like today we are improving productivity, for example, with automation. We're focusing on what matters and we're shifting our energy and our focus to something much more needing our focus and attention. But at the same time, the challenge is that with this transformation, many new roles are created. And these new roles means new skills, new learnings, and we need to adapt to that. So let me answer your question by at two levels. First, what does it mean, the future of work? Definitely, we're not going to sit and discuss whether it's robotics, whether it's AI, because this is what we know today. We didn't know about the metaverse a couple of years back. So the future of work for us, to understand what are the challenges, is mainly how you keep on learning and what we call lifelong learning. How do you keep on learning? This is the future of work. Because tomorrow is different than today, and we don't know what's hiding after that. So you just need keep on learning, upskilling yourself, adapting, acquiring new skills, reskilling, and forgetting sometimes what you learn and learning new things. So this is the future of work. If we want to think about the future of work, we can say ways of working. 2 years back, we were all in the same room, attending the same meeting, physically present, and suddenly overnight we had all to connect over Teams, So this is a totally different way of working. And these ways of working are going to keep on changing. This is the future of work. So the way we're working today is going to be totally different from the way we're working tomorrow. How do we bring communities together? How do we keep collaboration in a hybrid work where even we're talking today about digital nomad, people are working from anywhere in the world, only using their tech tools. They never come to the office. How do we bring people together? How do we keep them collaborating, exchanging knowledge, transferring this knowledge? What is the future of work for us? It's also sustainability and corporate social responsibility, because today, for you to be relevant in the future, you need to ensure you are sustainable. You are thinking about the society, to remain relevant in general. So how do you do that? This is very challenging. This is not easy. The future of work is how do you keep on creating diverse and inclusive workforce? How do you attract a diverse workforce? People coming from different generations, people coming from different backgrounds and perspectives, and you're asking them all to work together, and this is happening nowadays. And the most difficult part is that these people are learning in different ways. So how do you offer them different channels of learning, different formats of learning to cater to their needs, to attend to their needs, and to satisfy their needs? A future of work is about definitely automation and AI and cybersecurity and data literacy and data protection. Definitely, this is with no doubt. And if I want to continue on what is the future of work and what are the challenges, one of the biggest challenges is, are we really putting the right effort? So we attend a lot of conferences. We put a lot of plans, but are we really putting the right plans? Are we going till the end? Are we collaborating enough? And by collaborating, I say, are educational bodies, governments, employers coming all together on this journey to ensure that we are putting the right efforts? So instead of only researching and thinking, putting things in practice. So challenges are many, but the most important is that these challenges create opportunities, for sure. And the moment we know about these challenges, the more we should be ready in order to be future fit. And this is what we're doing in Chalhoub, and I can share with you our experience later on.
Wonderful. That's really good to hear, Samar. I think some of the key points there in terms of really understanding those mega trends and looking at those skills and really kind of asking us the question, how are we acting on it? So that's a really important element of not only just knowing. People knew the steam engine is coming, but what do we want to do with the steam engine? People knew a nuclear power is emerging, but how is it that we're harnessing nuclear power for electricity? So it's about really tapping into these mega trends and really driving the effort from there. In that same context, Aysha, it'll be really interesting to hear from your perspective. We talk about these mega trends, changes, data, AI. How are you assessing skill gaps in your current organization? And we talk about future has future skill requirements, there will be skill gaps. How are you assessing the capabilities required for the jobs that people are currently doing, what they're required to do in the future? How is that panning out for yourself?
Assalamu alaikum everyone, good afternoon. The skill gap also is known as the talent gap, which is defined as the differences between the current skills of the people you are having in the organization versus the required skills in the organization to achieve their goals. And this process is not a responsibility on one person in the organization or HR department only. I think it's a full ecosystem needs to work together in order to be able to deliver this journey successfully. I would really divide this responsibility between the organization as one stream, leadership and the HR, and the individual himself. Starting from the organization, it's very important that they ensure there is an organization alignment in terms of defining the clear strategy, defining the plans, where the business is going in upcoming year, in order to help the organization to build up the workforce which is needed in the future for the requirements which the organization needs. The second part of the responsibility of the organization is to infuse the culture of the learning in the organization and supporting that by putting the training and development as a priority, which will really will have a significant impact in the talent growth in the organization. And additional to that, the transparent communication to the employees in the organization for any kind of changes, any kind of new requirements is very essential to have the buy-in from all the levels in the organization. So that is really a summary of what is needed from the organization side. Moving to the leadership and the HR side, it's very essential that the leaders in the organization have a big part in the development of their teams, starting from knowing them better than the HR, knowing them better than the management, since they are the ones who are working with them on a daily basis. So the leadership have a role in defining the future requirements for the role first, and plus the development which is needed for their employees. They are best suited to tell us what is needed for these people in terms of the development. So they can really follow the 70-20-10 approach, where they put them in assignments, projects, and really follow up with them on a daily basis on their objectives. This is part of the development. They can give them more mentoring part and involve them in the correct trainings as per the need of the organization as well as the need of the individual himself. Also, as a part of the leaders is that they, sometimes once we define as a leader the job requirements, it's very important that to introduce the competencies needed. So, because the competencies now, it's become very important, either it is a technical competencies or behavior competencies. That once you define that in advance, it helps you at the time of the hiring, what type of person you will be hiring. So you have the right person from beginning and start the journey of the development from within. If I'm moving to the individual role, I think the employee needs to really take this, the skill gap analysis process as an opportunity for development, not as a revealer of his weaknesses at work. Grasping all kind of opportunity he might face in the organization for the learning, as Samer said, using different technologies, being able to really learn and implement different things, innovation, creativity, different things at work which make him different than the others and really open the door for him or her to learn. So I think it's a full ecosystem. Everyone needs to work together to have a full plan to overcome the skill gap which is in the organization.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Aysha. And there's so much of synergy in what Samer, you mentioned, and how Aysha kind of built upon it in terms of really creating that culture of learning where people are continuously hungry and eager for more and really kind of driving that change. But at the core of it, as you mentioned, is this real skill gap. And skill gap is nothing but integration with strategy and performance, because what we are trying to do as an organization is in the end to get the right business results, as you mentioned. So that's really interesting to hear. It would be really interesting to get your views now in, Abdullah, especially when we are now talking about skills and skill gaps and alignment with strategy. How do you think an organization should approach really right skilling its workers? I mean, we need to right skill our people to get the right business results, but what do you think could be the approach here?
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. First of all, I think organizations need to think about their competency framework. They need to add the new skills required in the market, like the creative thinking, like the analytical analysis. That should be part of their competency framework and capability of the organizations. And that should be also part of their change management. Every organization is moving from stage to stage. They need to assess their future capability. And part of that one, they need to look at the people and their competency framework in the organization and how that will be adapting with their future plan and requirement in the markets. I think there is another side, which is the social side. I think we need to look at it. We know that in the Middle East, 30% or more than 80% of the publicity is below the 30 years old. So we need to look at okay, the youth in the future. Are they able to filling our requirement for the markets? Are they aware of the change we will have it in terms of the capability it's required for the markets? As they mentioned, Aysha, the ecosystem, it needs to be looking at it in comprehensive way. It's not only the organizations, it's also the education system in the governments, how they are adapting this new requirement and how they will be trained the people on that one. And one more thing that's the adaptability and the transferring from stage to stage. It needs to be monitored and it needs to be having an action plan inside the organizations. What's going on? What's next? What the skills that's required right now? Where the gap, as they mentioned it, Aysha, and how we closing that gap. Most of the organization thinking that's okay, we have this competency, but during the time and the period, they are not reaching that gap because they are not investing in the right way.
That's brilliant. And identification of those real competencies for the future, as you mentioned, Abdullah, that becomes a critical cornerstone to driving the success. And I was listening to my good friend Manish in the other panel today. It's about how do we remain fixated with competencies for the entire organization. And in the fast-moving, fast-paced environment, we really cannot have one size fits all. A carpenter would be very different from a driver, would be very different from a data scientist, would be very different from a CEO. So the skills and the competencies required for each of these roles, and really kind of then delving into more specific skill gap assessment, and then adding it over with the learning opportunities that's available, but at the same time create that culture of learning where people are really taking over and really going at it because they want to develop themselves, and that leads to the success of the organization. So that's really quite aligned and quite it's brilliant to hear. Rania, Dr. Rania, as I must say. It'll be interesting to now get your thoughts. I mean, over the last couple of years, there have been loads of changes. And as Samar mentioned, I mean, I didn't know Teams existed in 2019. I knew it was an app on my laptop, but I didn't know I could use it as much as I do today. So over the last few years, obviously, we've witnessed dramatic changes, and thankfully changes back to the positive again. So that's why we are here sitting next to each other and having this conversation. Across these couple of years, what is it how are we really witnessing that great shift towards a skills-based organization? And how is skills probably becoming the cornerstone and not a very wide fit of just competencies? So we are looking at skills specifically. So what would your views be on it, Dr. Rania?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. To answer your question, we're not. To make it short and sweet, we're not actually. I haven't seen any. I mean, I've read reports saying that 98% of companies are actually interested in skill-based organization or shifting, but have we actually seen it? Have we actually seen a company that's actually shifted fully to a skill-based? I believe that a lot of us would say no. But before I get into details, so what is a skill-based organization? To me, it's a shift in the operating system. It's a complete shift in the operating system, the way we see organizations operate. So we're shifting from perhaps more of a job description based to more of a skill-based description or skill-based operating. So in this situation, we got two sides. We got the organization that impacted, and we also have the individuals. For the organization, we have a change in the talent strategy. By that, I mean the hiring, I mean the performance management, I mean workforce planning, I mean the compensation and benefit. For hiring and sourcing, we can definitely look at the skills as opposed to the job description. You're looking at the candidate as a whole. You're looking at what specific skills can the candidate add to the job or the actual activity that he or she will be performing. In addition to that, you're looking at the workforce planning. So we're not looking at headcounts right now. We're looking at skill planning at this stage. What is it that the department needs? What sort of skills are needed in the departments at this stage? What does the organization need in terms of skills in order to meet the customer's expectations? In healthcare, I think this is more critical. No disrespect to the other industries, but this is more critical in healthcare. And we move into skill-based compensation policies. You need to look more into the skills and how you can properly compensate for skills of each individual, of the employees and the candidates. So these are some talent strategies that you need to look at, and you need to give it some consideration in order to fully move into a skill-based organization. Now, moving on to the individual, and I think Aysha made it so clearly that we need to focus perhaps on the 10-20-70 rule. Think more of individual development. Again, we're drilling down to skills. We're not looking at jobs right now. We're looking at the skills. So when it comes to IDPs, you have to think of a skill. How can an employee upskill? Back to your point there. And it's about reskilling. How can employee reskill? I think you know that we're seeing significant shifts in jobs, so I'm saying jobs right now. But jobs destructed, if we want to destruct them, into specific skills. So how can I, as an employee, find different skills so I can find a horizontal growth and vertical growth as well? So as an employee, I have to keep on checking. The World Economic Forum issued a wonderful report that states the number of skills that are required for the future, so the employee can actually refer to those. These are some of the, let's say, activities that the employee needs to take care of or think of as we consider moving to a skill-based organization. So having said that, what is it exactly that we can do in preparation for if we do proceed to a skill-based organization? Now, the first thing that comes to mind is back to Samir when he said to forget what we've learned. Now, I'd like to perhaps just rephrase that and say unlearn. Unlearning is a skill. So we've witnessed years of legacy work in specific jobs, operating manuals, operating models. So we have to perhaps just shift our thinking a bit and think, how can we move away from this specific operating model that we had and move into a new operating model? So learn new activities, new innovative solutions. So we unlearn, learn, or perhaps relearn. So why not? We can learn specific skills or specific, say, models. And agility. I know we've mentioned the word agility a couple of times, and we cannot overstate the importance of having agile systems, agile models, agile employees, agile programs. These are also important. And back to Samir and Ahmed's point in terms of how the reskilling works and the different external changes that are going on within the organization and within the world as we know it. In addition to that, I would also like to say adaptability. So we need to be adaptable. There are specific skills required according to one of the reports by Forbes that we don't know yet that are going to exist in a few years from now. So we need to know, how are we going to adapt? Utilizing innovative solutions, utilizing technology, utilizing data analytics. So we should be able to utilize the resources in order to adapt to the changes that are going on. And Ahmed and I had this interesting conversation before the discussion in regards to having a purpose, linking the purpose of the organization or the individual to the actual skills. How can we achieve that? Perhaps even consider the whole strategic objectives of the organization. Now the question is, do we have all this? Are we ready to shift to a skill-based organization? I'm going to leave it up to you to answer that.
And that's the million-dollar question. And that's very brilliantly put, Rania. And I have a question as an HR practitioner myself. Do you think is it the death or the end of jobs and job descriptions and job evaluations? Are we only going to talk about skills in the next 10 to 15 years? Your quick take on it.
Question again?
Is this the end of jobs? Jobs would probably be a combination of skills, and would we only be talking about micro skill-based recruitment, skill-based development, skill-based hiring? What is, in your opinion, the kind of way ahead in that domain?
If the mic is able to work without switching it on, then we're definitely in trouble. But right now, the mic still needs to go on, so I think in terms of skilling, in terms of jobs, we're safe.
Wonderful, wonderful. Abdullah, you wanted to add something to it?
I think it will be depend on the type of the job, what the criticality of the job. There is a certain job like, for example, doctor. He needs some qualification. He needs some skills. You cannot say that this is a base skilled job to do that or this. In more generic job, you can use the skills base. But in some critical job, I think you need to have a
base level skill set to start off with.
Yes.
Sorry, Aysha, you wanted
So
to
I would like to add,
jump in.
I don't think the job will disappear, but I think it will be perceived differently. So maybe if the job is being done manually now, it will be automated. So the skill set which is needed to perform that job, it might need to be changed. So instead of looking for specific skills where the person can do this job manually, but now it's converted to be automated, so you need to have a person who is trained to use that system or read these data instead of in a manual matter to be more into the data analytics part. So I think the requirements to perform the job is changed, but the job remains the same, but it is perceived in different ways.
So you still believe that a job remains the core and there will be skill bolt-ons on top of the
I
job?
think so, yeah.
Summer.
So Reed, you just said there is no one size fits all. And it depends on the industry, it depends on the trend, and it depends on the organization and the people. So it's a mix of different factors. So in certain fields, you might afford having multi-skilled pool of people, like in technology, where we call them growth team. People working together on different things, and they can change hats as long as they are progressing in their jobs. In some other areas, no. You just need to have your, in-depth knowledge of your own skills. You can always have the extra skills to be relevant, to be fit, to be more safe and secure. So it's a mix of different things.
Wonderful. So if I hear correctly, jobs shouldn't probably be a taboo word. We need to blend and adapt. One size doesn't fit all. Are we bolting on skills on top of jobs? Are we looking at it more from a skills-based view, but at the same time looking at still looking at it from a construct of a role requirement or a job requirement?
And even if I can add something, there are some skills that are becoming a bit universal and transversal, where we are encouraging many people to develop these skills. Example, if we're talking project management, nowadays we are moving more and more into tasks and projects and moving from one priority to the other, and the priority might change. So it needs a lot of project management. It needs a lot of problem solving. So you might have always your core skills and the additional skills that are good to have and that can make you more, agile, flexible, sustainable in general.
Wonderful. I have two questions, and it's the same question to both Aysha and Samar. Since you both spoke about a culture of learning, how do you really create a culture of learning within the organization? And I'll follow that up with a question to Rania and Abdullah after we've spoken about culture of learning, is what do you do with people who are probably not a culture fit? Is that something which is assessed? Learning agility, is it something that you would look at somebody joining in the organization? And how would you really deal with people who probably are not taking those steps or not blending into that culture? So to begin with, Aysha, if you can just help me understand how to create that culture of learning in the organization.
I don't think you can create a culture. The culture is built by itself. It takes some time really to embed it to that kind of values and culture you are really trying to embed in the organization. So it starts from top, the way they would like every single person in their organization, how they would like to deal on a daily basis and represent the values of the organization. And day by day, month by month, it becomes as a culture. It becomes as an operating model in the organization, that it is being operated by every single person in the organization the same way, the same values, same beliefs, same kind of habits happening in the organization. So it really takes a long time to build a culture. Like at RAKEZ, we have integrated back in 2017 to one company, and until now we are really creating that kind of culture to bring the people to the same purpose, to talk to the same language and present to the clients the same way we are doing every day. So I think it takes time. Along with that, I think you need to create culture champions in the organization who carries out to smaller group, more focused smaller group, the same values which the top management would like to be having, translating that into different activities. So we have created champions for culture, represent specific departments in the organization, and we gave them a set of activities they have to run, which is also, these activities are a part of their objective. So they really take it as a serious, and we have also these KPIs embedded in their performance evaluation system, so they've been taken really seriously. And it will take time to pay off on these kind of things, but you will start seeing that in different matrices you will be building up internally in the organization.
That's really good to hear, and culture needs to be driven by the people, and it cannot be top down, and that's music to my ears. Ourselves in Al Ghurair, we are on a very strong culture transformation journey, and it's being led by about 100 people who we call culture ambassadors, who are in there with the people, really driving those change actions on the ground. So that's music to my ears. Thank you very much. Samar.
Definitely, I agree on everything said, but let me bring a bit the culture of learning in Chalhoub, okay? Because this is real examples. I agree with you that culture is, you drive it through activists, and we do have culture activists everywhere in the group, trying to instill our culture pillars, educate people around culture pillars, and identifying the blockers of the culture and devising solution with the people in order to overcome these blockers in terms of culture, especially the culture of learning. But also, if you want to take a step back, we in Chalhoub, we have a direction to spend on our learning. So it's not like, you need to get much of approvals for you to, get into learning forum or attend a learning or go through any course. So this is a top-down. You need to spend on learning, and this is a mandate given to our leadership, and it's an it's a huge percentage of our, of our P&L. Second, to instill a culture of learning, you need to provide learning opportunities first. So, yeah, I encourage you for learning, but I need to facilitate that learning. So, for example, in Chalhoub, we have our Chalhoub University, which is an online platform providing employees with endless number of courses 24/7. And this is how you encourage employees to go at any point in time, whether during the day, they are empowered to decide when they can go and attend any course, or at their own pace in their own time, and attend literally any course they need. And even if they don't find that course, which is a bit rare, they have to collaborate with their HR business partner and managers, and we outsource it. Third is how you instill the mindset at a leadership level. In Chalhoub, we do believe in servant leadership as a pillar in our culture. Servant leadership is about empowering others in addition to 9 other traits in terms of empathy, communication, and everything. And part of it, of the servant leadership, that everyone is assessed accordingly, is developing others, making sure others have the knowledge and the skills to perform their jobs and beyond, and how they can grow from there. So it's a lot of things to create. Yeah. Definitely you can go into the things that we know, that rewarding learning, TNAs in order, the IDPs that you put in place and you make people accountable. But a learning culture is beyond that. It's the mindset. You create the space, you empower people, you give them the tools, and
Wonderful, thank you. So there's no one silver bullet, and it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of action at multiple levels. So thank you. Abdullah, and then followed by Rania. the second question we were dealing with, how do we manage people who really don't want to upskill or are laggards in a way, if there are any?
I think there is no people they don't want to learn, but they want to know how they can learning a new skills. Give them the opportunity, as you mentioned in Chalhoub Group, that they have the opportunity by getting the online training. Give them the way they can uplifting their skills in different way. As Aysha mentioned, that they will be involving in project, they will be involving in development, they will be working in different department, in cross-functioning team. So that will be give them a different opportunity to learn and advancing their career. It's not about only training or attending class or doing that. It's about their ability to change and adapting with the change in the organizations, because the organization is moving and the bus is moving. Absolutely. Even you will be with us or you will be lifting over.
Absolutely. That's great. Rania.
So the way I see it, it's about asking or answering the question, what's in it for me? As an employer, what's in it for me? Why do I need to learn? And looking at it from a different perspective, I believe we're all learning in the workplace. I mean, we're actually learning when you perform projects or when you're involved or engaged in different activities. We are learning. I think we just need to point it out to the employees. I mean, back to the 2010-70, 70% is allocated for the actual on-job learning. So you're actually learning on your job. I mean, you gain years of experience and you do gain new skills, new competencies. So we are actually learning on the job. We just need to, as an organization or employers, enable the different resources for the employees in order to have them learn some more. So the way I see it, we're already learning. Perhaps maybe we're halfway to the organization learning or learning in the organization. We just need to point it out to the employees that you're actually learning and you are benefiting. They just need a little bit guidance and perhaps pinpointing the fact that it is to your advantage, to your benefit, to learn more as an employee, to upscale, rescale, horizontal or vertical growth.
Wonderful, and I kind of resonate with what you had also earlier mentioned in terms of finding that purpose connect. An organization really, I mean, we at Al Ghurair are a very strongly purpose-led organization, but people have their individual purpose as well. And how is it that we are connecting both of them and creating an environment where they're asking for learning and really what's in it for them? It is their own career, it's organizational success, and it's their individual success all coming together. So really, really good to kind of hear those thoughts. Yasmin, do we have time for questions? 2 questions, I'm told. Any questions for any of the panelists? That's fine, we've got one there. We'll just keep one more here. Sorry, please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the enriching actually session. So thank you Aysha, Rania, Abdullah and Samer for that. My thoughts is just about how much close we were working actually with the educational entities to make sure that our new generation are equipped with the mindset, with the skills that needed for the future So do we see that a lot going on now between, especially in the private sector, between private sector and educational, that kind of collaboration to ensure that we do have the right talent that required for the future?
Brilliant, that's a brilliant question. So in terms of how do we kind of connect the educational system to the skills requirement of the future, and that's actually $1 million question. Are we still training and educating people for jobs, or are we educating and upskilling them for skills? So over to the panel. So Aysha.
Beside the efforts which the organization takes for employees, I think we need, as a leaders, to take one step back, and we can look at the generations who are studying in universities. And once we have with them the internships and the visits we go to introduce us as an employer, it's very important that we shift their mindset there, that how the employers are becoming now, looking at the skills. We are talking about majors they are studying, how that will contribute to the organization and it will add value to their skills. We also share with them the type of, how our, for example, interview process has been changed. It's more of a competency-based interviews, which really puts in the lights on how the technical competencies are identified, how the behavior and competencies are identified. So it's very important the organization educate the other generations who will come to the workplace how the organization itself is changing. The internal changes which is happening in the organization, as I said, it's a full ecosystem. We have to work on the full system from top down in changing the mindset. But the people who are new, who are introducing to the organization, these people also needed to be educated on the changes which is happening in the organization. And these kind of, the new generation themselves, they need something very agile. They are really very tech-oriented. So you need to prove to them that these things already been adopted internally, so they can really be attracted to come and work in these kind of organization.
Wonderful. I'm getting some stern looks there. Last 15 seconds, Rania, Abdullah, Samar, any thoughts to summarize that?
I think he asking about more about the social, the education systems. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. I think your selection of the education for your kids, it will be a major impact for their futures. Nowadays, our kids, they are doing project management teams, and they are working in different assignments, and they do presentation and online jobs and project and engaging in different activity. That's not in all schools. Depend on your education, where you are selected your kids to be in which school, what capability they will provide it to them, and I think gradually it will be a trend in the market for the school, for what's required of the education. It will be needed and required. So I think it started by your selection of your education for your kids.
So that skills are coming in. 15 seconds, Rania.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So at least in Saudi, I know we're heading in the right direction. There's definitely a partnership between the Ministry of Education, the universities, and the Ministry of Human Resources. And this is definitely an interesting and great step in order to identify the skills, the jobs, the education, and linking them together. At least in the organizations that I know in Saudi Arabia, they're reaching out to different universities, whether international or national, in order to have a specific certification or education program for employees to utilize. So this would help if the employees in order to upskill and develop different networking. So it would tick all the boxes in terms of having what they need academically and back in the workplace.
Wonderful. I think we'll have to close it here, Yasmin. I would just want to thank all the panelists. It's been an amazing experience being a moderator. And a big round of applause for all the panelists, please. Thank you very much.